Chakrabarti, who's a professor of psychiatry in Department of Psychiatry, PGIMER, Chandigarh. Sir's areas of interest are adult psychiatry. He has about 425 papers to his credit. And Sir is a fellow of the Royal College of Psychiatry, the National Academy of Medical Sciences, and the International Society for Affective Disorders. He's a member in the ICD-11 working group on the classification of mood and anxiety or related disorders, and a contributor to ICD-11 online training unit on mood disorders. The second chair today is Dr. Devendra Kumar Rana, who's an assistant professor of clinical psychology in Department of Psychiatry, PGIMER, Chandigarh. His areas of interest are neuropsychology, drug de-addiction, cognitive behavior therapy, and psychodiagnostics. And he has 21 publications to his credit. Now, I would like to invite the chairperson to introduce the speaker and further moderate the session.
Okay, Dr. Rana, you want to introduce Dr. Sandeep Grover? He needs no introduction, but you can give it a try.
Right, sir. Dr. Sandeep Grover, professor of psychiatry, he doesn't need any introduction. His areas of interest are clinical psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, severe mental disorders, psychopharmacology.
Devendra, for the economy of time, Devendra, may I request for the economy of time, let's start with the presentation.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah. Can I be allowed to share? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, chairpersons, for the kind words. And I'll be talking about schizophrenia, other primary psychiatric psychosis, and catatonia in ICD, and what will change in your practice. So if we want to understand schizophrenia, we cannot forget these three names, that is the Emil Kraepelin, Eugen Bleuler, and the Kurt Snyder. And the Kraepelin mainly gave the concept, or he gave the concept of dementia precox, and he talked about the poor prognosis of schizophrenia. And Bleuler gave us the 4 A's of schizophrenia, and which we now understand more as something like formal thought disorder, or maybe some of the factors which may be understood as the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. And Kurt Snyder gave the concept of the first rank symptoms, and that has influenced the classification over the years since his description. So if we try to understand schizophrenia as we all now look at schizophrenia, basically we understand schizophrenia as a disorder with positive symptoms, negative symptoms, formal thought disorder, and which usually have a poor prognosis. That's our understanding of schizophrenia till today, and you can see that from where does it come from. And when we look at the nosology, how it has evolved in ICD-8 in 1967, talked more about the positive symptom, the chronicity, and the poor clinical outcome of schizophrenia, mainly influenced by the Kraepelin, whereas the DSM-2 was influenced more by the Bleuler, and they talked about the loss of ego boundaries. And as Dr. Basu had alluded in his talk about the UK-US project, and which showed that there's marked difference in the diagnosis of affective disorders and schizophrenia in the United States and the United Kingdom. And this led to the development of more explicit operationalized criteria. And over the years, we have seen that most of the diagnostic systems have followed these operationalized criteria for all the disorders. And over the years, many people have described various subtypes of schizophrenia, which all these are some of the subtypes which survived in ICD-10. And in ICD-10, we describe the course of schizophrenia under the 8 headings, again, which are often not being very useful, and people usually don't use it very frequently in the practice. And when we look at the problems of ICD-10 and the DSM-4, the subtypes which have been described are considered to be not valid, that they are not stable. They change over time from one time frame to the other. Once you assess the patient today, maybe after a few months you assess, if you want to characterize the subtype, it may not be the same subtype. And there's a lot of overlap between the various subtypes. So subtypes has always been a problem in the ICD-10. And when we look at the other emphasis on first rank symptoms, when we look at the A to D criteria of ICD 10, it talks about mainly the first rank symptoms, but in routine clinical practice, there is low specificity of these features in differentiating schizophrenia from other non-affective psychosis and the affective psychosis. And there's a lot of variable reliability in assessing these symptoms, and they do not have much of prognostic value. And this, in terms of frequency, their presence in patient of schizophrenia also varies considerably in different countries and from different time to time. Further extending, so we understand that the psychotic symptoms which have been described in ICD-10 with respect to schizophrenia are not just limited to schizophrenia. The course criteria which has been discussed is not in real sense what we understand now in our clinical practice, as the research has evolved over the years, and the criteria does not give us any understanding about the severity of the illness. And the other problem which is there in the concept that catatonia in ICD-10 has been mainly limited to the description of schizophrenia, but over the years we have realized that catatonia is seen in various conditions besides schizophrenia. So just talking catatonia in relation to schizophrenia is not proper. And the other research evidence which has emerged over the years, various factor analysis and cluster analysis studies have now come up with the various symptom domains of schizophrenia, understanding them as positive symptoms, negative symptoms, affective symptoms, disorganized, psychomotor, and cognitive symptoms, with first 2 or 3 being the most consistent kind of symptoms which have been reported in various studies. And the course of schizophrenia over the last 20-30 years, we have now started understanding schizophrenia from the perspective of prodrome, the first episode psychosis, and the prognosis is not always poor, and it can also run in episodic course. So that understanding has emerged over the years. And similarly, with regard to the acute and transient psychosis, there is understanding that we can have multiple episodes of acute transient psychosis in patients, and not necessarily all of them convert to schizophrenia. Although a lot of effort has gone over the last 20-30 years in understanding the biological markers of schizophrenia, which can be incorporated in the nosological system, but we have still failed about it. So these have not yielded much that can be incorporated in the nosological system. So concerning the problems of ICD-10 and the research evidence which has emerged, ICD-11 tries to incorporate some of these things in ICD-11 over what has emerged in last 30 years. So some of the factors we are just trying to incorporate this. But at the same time, it's not just limited to that we are just graduating from ICD-10 to ICD-11. As was discussed earlier, we also need to harmonize it with DSM-5. So that's a basic fact, again, which we need to keep in mind. And as Dr. Basu talked in his talk, that the basic focus is not just that we have a valid diagnosis. There should be some scientific validity, but the other implications of the ICD-11 include the global applicability, the clinical utility, maintaining the homogeneity with DSM-5, and we should have some kind of empirical basis for defining the criteria. So from there, now let's see how ICD-11 has moved from ICD-10 and how does it compare with DSM-5. So the category name is defined as schizophrenia and other primary psychiatric disorders. So this is an improvement when we say that emphasizing the word primary here actually gives us the understanding that the psychosis can be either primary or can be secondary, and the secondary could be due to medication or substances, and that is classified under a different heading. So from that point of view, ICD-11 overscores over ICD-10 and DSM-5. And when we look at the various existing categories in ICD-10, we had schizophrenia, schizotypal disorder, persistent delusional disorder, and so forth. ICD-11 makes certain changes, and here you will see that the schizophrenia and the acute and transient psychosis, if you just want to compare the nosology, F20 becomes A6A20. So schizophrenia remains at same level, and see if you want to remember same 23 code, then ATP remains at the same level. But there's a change for the schizoaffective disorders and the schizotypal disorders. The schizoaffective disorder comes at the level of 6A21, and the schizotypal disorder is at the level of 6A22. So there is some reshuffling of these disorders. The delusional disorder again has a reshuffling, and it is at the level of 6A24. So some reshuffling has been done in terms of placing these disorders at the different level. So from that perspective, you will see that there are certain changes, and one of the category, that is the induced delusional disorder, has been removed and it has been merged with the delusional disorder. The other non-organic psychotic disorder, the unspecified, have been again categorized, but these are not like F28, 29, but these are 2Y and 2Z. And in an effort to harmonize with DSM-5, you will see that the categories of DSM-5 and ICD-11 are almost at the same level, that schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizotypal, and the so-called brief psychotic episode in schizophrenia of DSM-5 is equivalent to your acute and transient psychosis in ICD-11. And we do not have an equivalent of schizophreniform disorder in ICD-11, and the so-called substance and the general medical condition, these are included in the secondary psychosis, so they are placed separately. Otherwise, there is a lot of similarity in terms of getting to the same level in terms of distribution of the categories. And in terms of duration of psychotic symptoms for diagnosis of schizophrenia, ICD-11 again maintains the same that of ICD-10, that is 1 month criteria. However, the DSM-5 has again maintained the DSM-4 level of understanding that the symptoms 1 month duration for the section A, but the total duration has to be 6 months. So in that way, the DSM-5 is going to pick up more patients with chronic kind of schizophrenia, and ICD-11 again will continue with the same problem as we were facing with the ICD-10. And in terms of symptoms of schizophrenia, in ICD-10, as I have already discussed, there is a lot of emphasis on first rank symptoms, and the patient does not have first rank symptoms. The usual tendency is to make the diagnosis of psychosis, NOS or something like that. DSM-5 has almost got away with this so-called first rank symptoms, but ICD-11 still has some remnants, I can say that it has not removed it completely. So there are, but the emphasis on that has gone down. And so when we compare ICD-11 and DSM-5, ICD-11 still retains some of the features which are suggestive of the first rank symptoms. And if you look at the symptoms of schizophrenia, again, here we do not have so-called criteria, but there is a description of various symptoms, and the symptoms are categorized into 7 different types, and the catatonia again is described separately as the 8th one, and which can be present in the patients with schizophrenia or other disorders. And if you closely look at this, these features are trying to, these descriptions are trying to give us an understanding about schizophrenia. And among these 7, the thinking problem, the perception, and the self-experience are considered to be the core symptoms. And although ICD-11, the Blue Book version, which I saw, it does not specify, but some of the documents have suggested that you are supposed to have 2 out of the 7, and at least one of the core, that is among the first 3, to diagnose schizophrenia. But again, I'm not very sure this is going to apply when it comes to the final version or not. Let's see how it moves out, but that's some of the descriptions have given this as how we are going to have this. When we compare with DSM-5, the A criteria actually has description of 5 symptoms, that is delusions, hallucination, the disorganized speech, or the grossly disorganized, or the catatonic behavior, and the negative symptoms. Now, when we try to compare these 2 systems, again, there will be a problem in future. For example, the thinking criteria of ICD-11 actually includes the delusions and formal thought disorder, which are actually separate in DSM-5. The perception is okay. The self-experience, which actually includes some of the features of made phenomena and a delusion of control and so forth, these are not there in the DSM-5. This, if are present, will be categorized possibly under the delusions. And in terms of the cognition, again, DSM-5 considers this as an associated symptom, does not include in the A criteria, whereas the ICD includes this among the top 7 criteria. And negative symptoms again described under one heading in DSM-5, whereas ICD has 2 kind of features which have been given. So that again makes that there will be some problem in making a diagnosis when we try to compare the diagnosis between DSM-5 and ICD-11 in future. And once we start practicing and start applying these criteria in our patient, we will realize that is these 2 systems at par with each other or not. And as already described, that DSM, although gives diagnostic criteria like the earlier versions, ICD-11 gives more of the description rather than the criteria. So criteria are not there in ICD-11. That's a major shift from the ICD-10. And in terms of symptom specifiers, ICD-10 did not have any symptom specifier, but ICD-11 again gives 6 symptom specifier for which we have clear descriptions, and for every patient we can make ratings for these symptoms. And if you just again try to compare DSM-5 and the ICD-11, Again, there are differences. For example, the delusions, hallucination, and the disorganized speech. All these three can maybe actually a club under positive symptoms of ICD-11. So there will be some confusion, and we'll possibly get used to all this in due course of time. And if you look at the severity rating, DSM again gives 5-point rating on from 0 to 4, and ICD gives a 4-point rating for rating these symptoms in last 7 days. So you can rate these symptoms of every patient for last 7 days, and you can rate the severity of the disorder depending on the number of symptoms, the severity of the symptoms, or their impact on the day-to-day functioning. So you have to take these factors into account to rate the symptoms. And the ICD-10 has used more of a categorical approach to understand the course of schizophrenia, whether ICD-11 has done a good job that we have more dimensional expansion of the course and severity of schizophrenia. So if you look at this 8 categories which are there in ICD-10, here we have 3 major things, that is the first episode, multiple episode, and the continuous course. And these are again categorized as currently symptomatic, partial remission, full remission, or the unspecified one. So if this will look like something like this, and you can choose one of the course for your patients with schizophrenia. So from that perspective, this inclusion of first episode again gives an advantage, because over the last about 2 decades, we have a lot of research in the first episode, and understanding a lot of research focuses on first episode separately. So possibly this will help us in understanding first episode, multiple episode, and the continuous patient with continuous course separately, and will possibly enhance our understanding in future. And when we compare that with DSM-5, again, they are almost at par. However, if you look at that, the continuous course has not been again categorized further by the DSM-5, but ICD-11 has categorized that further. And DSM-5 specifies that the course criteria should be used after 1 year of illness. ICD-11 does not specify that. And in terms of functioning, DSM-5 includes the functioning category as criteria B, but ICD-11 does not include the functionality, because the ICD believes that persons with psychotic symptoms can still may have average level of functioning, or they can still maintain functioning. So from that perspective, it provides a more broader kind of a understanding about schizophrenia. And in terms of ruling out the so-called substance use and other medical condition, both of the diagnosis systems are at par. And next, coming to the catatonia, in DSM-4 and ICD-10, we had this as a subtype of schizophrenia. However, when it comes to DSM-5 and the ICD-11, this has become a specifier or an associated condition, and it is a separate specifier which can be seen in, not only in patients with schizophrenia but other conditions. And accordingly, catatonia has been reported to be seen in patients with mood disorders, schizophrenia, and autism spectrum disorders. And it can also be caused by diseases or disorders classified elsewhere, indicating the other causes of catatonia. So basically, it gives 4 basic broad categories of catatonia, that is associated with another mental disorders, psychoactive substances, unspecified, and secondary, which is associated with the physical health conditions. And when we look at compare the catatonia of understanding of catatonia in DSM-5 and ICD-11, DSM-5 gives 12 features, out of which 3 are required to be present to diagnose somebody as having catatonia. ICD-11 gives the description of catatonia, and if you try to match them, again, you will see that there is a difference between understanding of catatonia between both the 2 systems. Some of the features which have been described as part of the DSM-5 criteria are not included in the ICD-11. And in terms of schizoaffective disorder, again, ICD-10 required presence of features of both schizophrenia and the mood disorders in the same episode to occur concurrently or at a gap of few days between each other. And it emphasized on the first rank symptoms of schizophrenia to be present. ICD-11 also almost follows the same in terms of depression. We need to understand that it does not include mild depression. So from that point of view, only moderate and severe depression will qualify for schizoaffective disorder. And if you look at the criteria again, the duration is specified as 1 month, and we again have the course specifier for the various schizoaffective disorder categories. And if you try to again compare that with DSM-5, again, here there's a major change that DSM-5, when approaching the schizoaffective disorders, takes more of a longitudinal course of illness. It talks about more of it as a continuous illness in which the delusions and hallucinations lasting for at least 2 weeks in the absence of the mood symptoms should be present during the lifetime of the illness. and the affective symptoms must be present for the majority of the total duration of the active and the residual portion of the illness. And in the example of DSM-5, which they describe, they've given an example of 25% at least, but again, that's an example given that does not specify that kind of a percentage, so we need to understand that. So the other important fact to remember that ICD-11 considers schizoaffective more as an episodic illness, whereas DSM-5 considers schizoaffective as more of a continuous illness. So that is again another basic difference which we need to keep in mind. And these so-called the different approaches, one is a lifetime approach and one which more talks about the cross-sectional approach. It is suggested that ICD has taken this approach to trade off between the diagnostic stability, the diagnostic feasibility, which strongly influences the reliability. So ICD-11 has taken that kind of a stand in defining the schizoaffective disorder. Moving on further to the schizotypal disorder, again, as was in DSM-4, DSM-5 has continued to list schizotypal disorder here now under the headings of schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders, and also listed under the personality disorder. In DSM-4, this was only listed under the personality disorders. ICD-11 only lists this under the schizophrenia and other primary psychotic disorders. And if you look at the descriptions of ICD-10 and the ICD-11, ICD-11 again emphasizes on two basic facts, that is the enduring pattern of behavior, there are eccentricities, and the patient will have negative schizotypy or the positive schizotypy. And if you look at that from that perspective, that ICD-11 takes away some of the features which are more close to something like neurotic kind of behavior. Possibly this are not been that explicitly described in relation to schizotypal disorder in ICD-11 compared to the ICD-10. And similarly, when we compare that with DSM-5, again, the so-called the anxiety component which is there, which has been described as part of DSM-5 criteria, has not been very explicitly described in the ICD-11. And in terms of delusional disorder, besides the routine category of the so-called persistent delusional disorder, the other two categories of induced delusional disorder and other acute predominantly delusional type of psychotic disorders, which were part of the F24 and F23.3, have now moved or are clubbed under the delusional disorder. And if we try to understand, compare that with DSM-5 and ICD-11, DSM-5 talks about the duration criteria of 1 month, whereas ICD-11 talks about the duration criteria of 3 months. So this is one of the major difference again between the two systems. And if you look at the course of delusional disorder, again, you will find that there are subtle differences here. DSM-5 considers delusional disorder more of an episodic kind of a illness. It can occur as in the episodic form also. But in ICD-11, we more or less talk more about delusional disorder as a continuous kind of illness. So that's again a major difference when we try to understand the course of delusional disorder across the two systems. And if we talk about the so-called the induced delusional disorders, as I've said, this has moved to the delusional disorder unspecified under the category of F24 only. And when we look at the acute and transient psychosis, this again has seen a major change in the ICD-11 when we compare with ICD-10. We had different categories ranging from F23.0 to F23.9. But when we move from ICD-10 to ICD-11, what you will see that many categories, like the 5 of the categories have been removed, and one of the category, that is acute schizophrenia like psychotic disorder, has been clubbed elsewhere. And the basic description again is just an acute and transient psychosis, again the first episode, multiple episode, or the unspecified type. So the subtypes of ATP have been removed from the ICD-11, and the basic description includes that this is an acute onset of psychotic symptoms which emerge without a prodrome. That's the important thing which has come up now very clearly. And they reach to the maximum severity within first 2 weeks. And the symptoms may include the delusions, hallucinations, disorganization of thought, perplexity and confusion, and disturbance of affect and mood. And catatonic symptoms may be present, and the symptoms may typically vary from time to time on the single day. And if you look at closely at the description, it does not include the description of the self-experience, which again are the remnants of first-rank symptoms in the description of schizophrenia. And if patient has this and the duration is still less than 1 month, these patients will be categorized as other specified schizophrenia or the other primary psychotic disorders. And when we compare that with the DSM-5, again, you will see that DSM-5's the brief psychotic disorder category, it does not have the so-called course description for the multiple episode, whereas the ICD-11 has, again, the description for the multiple episodes. And in terms of the so-called psychosis, NOS, and the unspecified non-organic psychosis, the F28 and 29, as I've said, we have different categories in the ICD-11, but the names have changed, but these were the most commonly used categories. But now possibly with the change in some orientation of the criteria of schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders, it is expected that these categories will be used less often, but let's see how it comes to the practice. So just to summarize the comparison of DSM-5 and ICD-11 in schizophrenia, the duration criteria for schizophrenia in DSM-5 is 6 months, but for the A criteria, the duration criteria still remains as 1 month. For ICD-11, it is 1 month, and functionality is part of the diagnostic description, but ICD-11 does not include that. The subtypes have been deleted from both the systems, so that is one thing which is a major change. And the course specifiers again are almost same. However, ICD-11 has some of the remnants of the first rank symptoms. And when we compare the other disorders, the delusional disorder, the duration criteria varies between the two systems, and the course also has description. Course description is also different between the two systems. And for the acute and transient psychosis, again, the duration criteria and the so-called the course criteria vary between the two. And for the schizophreniform disorder, we do not have an equivalent in the ICD-11. And for schizoaffective disorder, the 1 month criteria there, but the lifetime approach is taken by the DSM-5, whereas the ICD-11 talks more about the current episode. So to conclude, what is going to change? There is possibly for the resident, there is no need to count the criteria now. That's what it is being said. But as you will see that 2 out of 7 or 3 out of 1 out of the 1 core, these are still there, and how we are going to change our approach to understanding this, the time is going to tell. No more subtypes of schizophrenia. So schizophrenia is schizophrenia, and nothing called paranoid or undifferentiated and so forth. And this focus on symptoms and the course of schizophrenia. So we need to and not just focus on making a diagnosis by using the different criteria, but also we need to talk about what kind of symptoms are present in the last 1 week. We can grade the severity, and we can also grade the course of schizophrenia. And there is inclusion of cognitive impairment as a symptom dimension in mainly the ICD-11. So this is again going to help us in understanding the cognitive dimension of schizophrenia in future. The concept of schizoaffective disorder is different between both the systems, and now it is possible to code the recurrent ATP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a broad presentation making clear distinction between ICD-10, DSM-5, and ICD-11 classification of schizophrenia and the other primary disorders. Now, I would like to request Dr. Subbo to take over, because he is the right.
Sandeep, there are, I think, a couple of questions. One, Ajay Pal wants to ask whether functional impairment, I think he means, is included or not, and if not, why?
So, as I said in my presentation, in the description of ICD-11, there are 2 ways to understand that. When they say that when we are talking about disorder, basically it means that it has to have some amount of functional impairment. So they do not specify that as part of the description of each disorder. And the other way, they say that it is also possible that patients can have the functional impairment may not be there, but patients still can have the symptoms of schizophrenia. That's why they have not included that in the description, although the DSM-5 continues to do that.
Yeah. And there was another question about qualifiers which can be graded in severity have been included. Are they same conceptually as ICD-10 subtypes?
As I said, that this grading has to be done for the 6 symptom domain which have been described, and you have to grade them in the last 1 week on a scale of 0 to 3. So from that point of view, they are not same as what is there in ICD-10, but these are the 6 symptom domains which are described, and their description is clearly given, and how to rate them, that will be there.
Yeah, they made quite a fanfare about dimensional rating of schizophrenia, and so it's completely new, this whole symptom types as well as symptom dimensions as well as the severity rating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any other question? Okay, if anyone wants to ask a question, we have a couple of minutes, I think. Enter the chat box and ask.
Sir, in the chat box, there is a question, if you allow me to take. Sir, in presence of active psychotic symptoms, if a person with schizophrenia for 10 years also fulfills the diagnostic criteria of depressive episode for last 6 months, thus not post-psychotic schizophrenic depression or schizoaffective, what diagnosis to be given for that individual? Again, if you have established that the depressive symptoms have never been present in such a scenario that when he was free from psychotic symptoms, then it's as you have to think about a comorbid depression, you have to diagnose that. That's my understanding, that you have to then diagnose it as a comorbid depression. But if you take the lifetime course and take other factors into account, and you have to look at here what you have said, and I'm presuming that the depressive symptoms were never present when he was without psychotic symptoms. From that perspective, it will not be a schizoaffective disorder, so it will be a comorbid disorder.
Okay. There's another one. What are the take-home points for us junior residents about pros and cons of ICD-11 schizophrenia? Yeah,
if I try to understand that I've already emphasized that the course, now you have a better understanding. The symptoms are, the description is there. You can rate the symptoms as part of the dimensionality of understanding schizophrenia. And in terms of so-called understanding the various concepts or the symptoms which have been included as part of schizophrenia, now the diagnosis may end up slightly more broad and less of psychosis, NOS diagnosis may be made. So from that perspective, the course and the symptoms have been, the more importantly, they have been given more explicit description and inclusion of cognitive symptoms in schizophrenia. I think these will give us a better understanding of schizophrenia in future.
That's it. Okay, thank you very much, Sandeep. That was a very interesting lecture, and we can move on to mine, I guess. Thank you.